This is the place you chose of all the places you have seen.
No flowers, no garden at all. You live like a dog.
Happy dog.
This is the second film now that you've written, directed, scored, and starred in after 2020's Falling. But this time, of course, we're heading back to the American frontier. What can you say about what inspired The Dead Don't Hurt?
In a word, 2 words, my mother. I started writing a story about a woman named Vivienne. Has a very strong character, very much her own person, free thinking and free in her movements as much as she can be, within the limitations of society. And then I thought it'd be interesting to place that kind of story about a woman like that on the Western frontier, a time where society was kind of lawless, dominated by men, particularly a few unscrupulous, violent men. Mm-hmm. That would create a greater obstacle for her and make it more interesting for Vicky Krieps, who plays Vivienne. And plus, I like Westerns. I grew up watching them, like most kids of my generation, on TV and every once in a while in the movie theater. I like horses, and I've done a few as an actor, so I thought, wow, this is great. And we worked really hard to make it historically accurate, everything you see, and to shoot it like a traditional classic Western, just simple, elegant, really see the characters, see the landscapes, all the details, in a sort of not fussy way, where you don't think about how the camera's doing all that. And that was the goal. We were lucky. We found some great landscapes, and really lucky to have Vicky Krieps play Vivienne. I mean, if we hadn't got her, well, I just can't imagine someone else playing Vivienne, frankly. She's so good in it. And beyond what I'd hoped the character could be, she's the center of the story, which is unusual for a Western, to have a woman at the center of the story. And I was hoping for someone that could transmit a lot, even in silence, would have a really strong screen presence, and that would be believable in that historical period, and Vicky has all of that, and you can't take your eyes off her, and there's so many layers to her performance, so I'm really happy. Like I say, I can't imagine anyone else doing it.
Yeah, she's phenomenal. Forgive my ignorance, but is this a trend developing? Was Falling inspired by your father?
Well, the first image I had in that was also my mom.
It was also mom.
Yeah, I mean, there's a character in the story, the mother, has some traits that are somewhat like my mom's. You see that character. I don't know if you saw that movie, but she decides at one point, which was difficult at that time, late 60s, to take her kids and leave, and the husband doesn't make it easy for her. And so that was an initial image, but then it became a father-son story. And it's a fiction, just like The Dead Don't Hurt is a fiction. And in Falling, there's a couple little elements, little things that happen, like the duck hunting scene and things that are taken from things I remember from my childhood. But mostly they're fictions based on feelings, I guess, about my family, about things I know.
The Western might be our most tenacious genre, right? Like they always say the Western's going to fade. They never fade. Why do you think the Western continues to endure?
Well, as a framework or a skeleton, you can put all kinds of shapes on it. You can tell different kinds of stories. This is an example of that. Our story looks and feels very much like the classic Westerns I grew up watching. And we were very careful as a team to be really historically accurate with the kind of weapons used, the saddles, the clothes, the architecture that you see, and the language that's spoken, the languages, the accents, all that. It's very unusual for a Western in that, as I say, you have a woman at the center of the story, and you also stay with her when her male partner goes off to fight in a war. You never see that. You'd always go with him, and, takes longer than he thought. He comes home. She's either dead or she's married someone else, which is sad for him, or she embraces him with open arms and she's, tearfully rejoicing at his return, which is great for him. And I was just simply asking myself, what about her? What has she been up to? What are the consequences for little girls and for women when their fathers or their brothers or their partners go off to fight in their masculine wars, What happens? What do the women get up to? I'm sure there were lots of women like Vivienne at the time. There had to be. You had to be tough to survive in the West, on the frontier. But writers, which I guess would have been predominantly men at the time, weren't so interested in telling those stories, So unless you find someone's diary, a woman at the time, you're not going to hear those stories or read them.
Yeah.
Even today, it's not so normal to tell the story from a woman's point of view. And that's what we do in this story. So it shows you can still do things, you can do new things in the respecting the codes of the old classic Western.
It was announced recently that Andy Serkis is going to do a new Lord of the Rings movie. Could you ever see yourself returning to Middle Earth and reprising Aragorn?
If it was the right way it was being done, or if it made sense, sure, why not? I learned a lot. I had a great time. It was like a massive, lengthy, complicated, adventurous film school for me and everybody else who was involved. I mean, you got to see people solve all kinds of problems and new approaches to filmmaking. Peter Jackson and his team, it was amazing what they accomplished. So yeah, sure, it'd be great to revisit that, especially if it was in New Zealand. It's a country that's beautiful. I really like being there.
What did you learn as a filmmaker on those sets?
Well, mostly solving problems. And I think that's a very New Zealand thing. You know, it's a country that historically has always been far, far away from everyone else. This is true of Australians as well, but especially New Zealanders, I think. Just being inventive in terms of solving their problems. If I don't have the tool to solve this problem, I'll make it. If we don't know how to shoot this scene, or the weather is against us, or we don't have the tools, we'll find a way around it together. Collaboration is really key to that society, I think, and inventiveness and self-reliance. And, you know, no matter how well prepared a shoot is, making movies is always about solving problems, little ones and big ones, every day. Doesn't matter how well prepared you are, something unexpected is going to happen. Something's going to gum up the works, you know. As a team, you got to figure out how to get around those problems, those obstacles. And I've never seen a crew do that more efficiently than Peter Jackson's